To understand is to perceive patterns. Now, of course, what this means is that true comprehension comes when the dots are revealed and you get Stephen Johnson's long view and you see the big picture. This is the idea about patterns, recurring patterns across different scales of reality. You know, Paul Stamets talks about the mycelial archetype and how the information sharing systems that comprise the internet look exactly like computer models of dark matter in the universe, look exactly like the neurons in a brain. They all share the same intertwinkle filamental structure. It's the rise of networkism as big data advocates talk about how man-made systems are looking exactly like natural systems. The more we can measure, the more we can visualize, the more it expands our consciousness by seeing these recurring patterns across scales of reality. It blows my mind, and I think that organisms, you know, alleys are like capillaries. How is it possible that a man-made artificial technological system is behaving like a natural system? The more efficient it becomes, the more it's starting to look like nature. Really interesting, weird stuff. You know, but it makes me optimistic. It's like when Stephen Johnson says, look, if we can understand all this stuff, we can, I mean, anything becomes possible, right? It's the adjacent possible, standing as a sort of shadow future, a map of all the ways the present can reinvent itself. It's beautiful stuff.
Here we are at one of the world's oldest sacred sites, the Osirian Temple at Abydos, Egypt.
Very little writing is found in the Osirian Temple. However, there is one very significant piece of information in that temple. It is a very faint but clear and precise drawing. It's not etched into the rock, it's not carved, it's burnt into the atomic structure of the rock in some extraordinary way.
Nassim has decoded the Osirian symbol in 3 dimensions. Since our world is not two-dimensional, it makes sense that codes relaying information about our world also wouldn't be limited to flat designs. His 3-dimensional version of the Osirian symbol starts with the vector equilibrium, a perfectly balanced force field with 12 equal energy lines radiating out. They stabilize its center like the 12 spokes of a wheel. The primary pattern of balanced energy flow around this structure is the torus. Here we expand to the next larger scale with a total of 64 pyramids called tetrahedra. If we then put spheres in representing the toroidal energy field surrounding each of the pyramids, and then we drop away the pyramids, we end up with a matrix that is, amazingly, an exact overlay for the Osirian icon, a 3-dimensional model of the same pattern that was burned into the rock wall of the Egyptian temple thousands of years ago. In the same way that the torus is both distinct and unified, in human terms we are all simultaneously both distinct individuals and one human family. Philosopher Ashok Gangadine explains how this can be.
So imagine at the core space of where we process our experience. And remember, all of our worldviews are in this space. We feel lonely and isolated and often impotent. So we're locked in, and our different worldviews compete for that space, for dominance. And so there's a lot of violence, chronic violence, and breakdown of relationships.
Ashok found the torus to be the first accurate scientific model that shows how each of us is a distinct individual, but also completely interconnected with all existence.
That this is already surrounded in the space of deep interconnectivity, of infinite, boundless, Indra's net, the logosphere, whatever name, with a holistic field of deep interconnectivity where there are no more separated objects, but dynamic, toroidal, interconnected, fractal fields of energy, that we are already always surrounded. We ourselves right here, right now, always in this logosphere, or this field of interconnectivity. So that you and I, in our conversation, our dialogue, are not separate objects cut off by dynamic interconnected fields. And this is where knowledge and science and compassion and human relations and love all can take place. And this has been the cumulative teaching of all of our teachings for the centuries. And that's where he's suggesting that humanity must move and expand and mature for survival and thrival.
The inner workings of an atom are one of the great mysteries of current science. It's generally believed an atom is made of billiard ball-like particles. Dr. Patrick Flanagan is a physician, physicist, and inventor. His theoretical modeling of the electron suggests an atom is actually made of torus whirlpools in a sea of energy.
The donuts were spinning in such a way that energy was exiting at the equator and energy was coming in through the poles, and the proton had the exact reverse. So now a neutron would be a combination of an electron and a proton coupled together,